Mary Karp. I want to thank you so much for being on Christiana's Psychic Cafe. How are you today?
I am doing fine, Christiana. How are you doing today?
I am very well. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to speak with you about your brand new book, Clarity is Power. Now, I'm not even sure where I want to start here, so let's just give the facts. Give us the thumbnail. Tell us about your book.
Well, the thumbnail, real simple, is the book is Clarity is Power. There's a nice little picture of it there, right there. And it is a guide to designing your life through the power of goal setting. You know, it allows you to really be clear on what you want and shows you step by step the process of moving through, gaining clarity on what you want, and then being able to get the leverage on it, because that's also an important part, and takes you step by step by the hand and shows you what you need to do to achieve your goals and manifest the life that you truly desire and want. It grew out of really the workshops that I hold in New York, which are called Your Future Now. And I've been doing them for years. And after each workshop, I'd get letters from people who attended saying, hey, this is really great. I've got so much success. They tell me about all their goals that they met. And then they would say, do you plan on doing this as a book? Because I'd really love to have all this information near me. Or are you plan on doing this as a book because I'd love for my mother or my sister or my friend in Europe to have this, and they're not going to be able to make a workshop in New York. Well, after about 100 people said that to me, the universe could stop dropping anvils on my head. And I sat down and I banged out the book, and I hope that everybody finds value in it and is able to design the life they desire.
So this book then really is the substance of the workshop that you teach.
Yes. My goal in making the book was to capture the intimacy and the excitement of the workshop in the book. You're actually going through the same exercises, a little bit more actually, than I do in the workshops. You've got a little bit more in here, a lot more teeth in it, because I have more time.
Right. So, and I've got it here on my phone. It's an ebook. It's available on Amazon. The thing that I think is interesting, it's nice to know that it kind of organically grew out of your workshops, which I understand organically grew out of your own life.
Absolutely.
Because one of the great things about this book, and first of all, for people who aren't big readers or for people who don't have time to read, this is not a long read. This is short and deceptively simple, which is one of the things I like about it. You can read it once real quick with a cup of coffee, but you'll go back to it again and again to really understand what you got going on. But I just digressed there. The point I was trying to make was that you tell your personal story here. Even though this is not an autobiographical book, it's not memoirs, and it's not all about you at all. It's all about the person who's reading it. Mm-hmm. But you tell your story in such a profoundly simple way. This is what happened to me. And I was thinking, another writer might take pages to talk about certain things that really were egregious ways in which you were forced to suffer through no fault of your own. There have been a few of those things. Mm-hmm. And those very things are the things that led you to your success.
Yeah, exactly.
That's as we read, that's what we discover.
Mm-hmm.
But, the thing that I thought was very interesting is this book teaches in ways where I'm not even sure you realize you are teaching. And I will tell you, if I can find the paragraph here. Okay. It's the shortest paragraph. I was headed to work when I was involved in a car accident and broke both my legs. It took me over 3 years to heal and learn how to walk again. Okay. And then there's like 2 more lines in the paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anyone else would spend at least 3 pages talking about how much that royally sucked.
It didn't seem relevant. It really wasn't relevant to the message I'm trying to put out.
And that's the freaking message. That's the message. And I mean, I know there's more there. We're going to talk about all the messages, but that was like the first message I got.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be successful, if you want to achieve your goals, guess what? Weird shit that you didn't expect is going to happen, and it's going to happen to you at some point.
Absolutely.
And you have to find a way to use that. And so the next line, and I just think this is brilliant. Check this out. No more suffering, no more nothing. I saw this as being given a clean slate and a second chance. I said to heck with the Monday through Friday 9 to 5 corporate grind and dive fully into making my acting career a reality.
Yes.
Now, if that's not a hook.
And it actually happened in that way. Because from the time I was 18, actually a little bit earlier in high school, you do the plays in high school, and that gave me the bug. And I went to college, and I studied for that. And then when the money ran out in college, I go to work, and you get caught up in the everyday work grind, and then, bang, this happened. And everyone has a choice. Ignore my kitty cat running past me. You can see his tail right here. This is Noah's tail. Everybody has a choice, in my opinion, because, you know, I'm very much would you like to be part of this interview as well? Would you?
It's definitely welcome. Oh, how
Hello.
sweet.
Okay. Folks, that was Noah. He'll make an appearance later. I believe that I'm very much a behaviorist in the Jungian classic version of behavioral psychology. Things are neither good nor bad. There's neither success or failure. There's just events. And how we think about them and how we decide to use that information or that event moving forward is what is going to make them good or bad for us. So I really had that thing. And believe me, I don't want to paint myself as being a saint. There was plenty of the poor, poor, pitiful me going on right after the accident.
I'm sure.
Okay? But after a while, I sat there and I had all the existential questions, that existential angst that hits when you're 50. Hit me when I was 22 because I was hit by a car.
Right. Okay.
And I started researching and I started reading. And I mean, I read everything, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, Eastern philosophies of Zen and Buddhism and Taoism. And I mean, the modern masters, John Gray and Stephen Hawking, although he's a little older, Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer. And I just read everything. And then I started taking workshops, and that's where all this really, where the book and really what I'm doing now, my work drew out of. But the main thing I learned was you've got the choice. It's your life. There's no such thing as fate and destiny. Go out and get it.
Beautiful. Very well said. Now, no such thing as fate and destiny. And for the most part, you know, in this context, in the context of achieving goals, I completely concur. I would argue that there is something in terms of fate and destiny, but it's different than how people see it. And when it comes to achieving our goals, you're absolutely right. There is a painful thing that happens, and you're a tarot reader as well, so you know what I'm talking about. The person who comes for a reading and wants to know if it is their destiny to be successful.
Exactly. And, you know, it's definitely a head-banging experience, yes. I will agree with you, and I think what we're talking about here is, yes, there is a certain fate and a certain destiny, and I define that as the individual's highest power or the individual's highest good, what they are supposed to be doing. It's not that a hand, be that hand God, be it Hecate, be it Isis, be it whoever deity you may believe in, they're not guiding you along their path. You have something that's in your soul that is cheering you on to be the greatest thing you can be, the grandest vision of the greatest version you can create of yourself. Now, how you manifest that is totally up to you. But that, to me, if you want to call fate or destiny, would be what I would consider it. And it's very individual and it's very unique. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be all spiritual and holy. It could be there is something inside of me that is driving to be the greatest athlete I can be. Now, whether that's going to be a golfer like Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, whether it's going to be a baseball player like Derek Jeter, whether it's going to be a basketball player like LeBron James, or a swimmer, that's up to the individual. But that desire to reach your highest goal and your highest good, that to me is fate.
Now, let me ask a question about that, because of course you mentioned people who have achieved a certain amount of fame or fortune in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not our fate or our destiny, all of us, to achieve fame and fortune. And I think there are some people who want fame and fortune who never achieve it. So let me ask you this. Do you think that there are situations where our goals, the goals we set for ourselves, are not really in line with our soul's purpose or with what would really make us happy? Do we have a problem sometimes identifying what our goals should be?
That's a great question, and it's also a very interesting balance beam to walk. The quick answer, the knee-jerk answer is yes, absolutely. Now, please understand this is coming from my point of view, okay? Because my definition of success is not the world's definition of success. I don't need to get the corner office, the $1 million, the hot sports car, the beautiful model bride, and the house that's 150,000 square feet overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I don't need the Oscar to walk on the red carpet. I don't need for everybody to be calling my name. But in today's world, in society, that is put forth as what success is. So people may buy that illusion. They may buy that trick, if you will, and think that the only definition of success is money. I mean, if you think about when you're younger and your mother or your father is telling you how to pick your perfect mate, to find a good husband, they don't talk about kindness or generosity. They don't talk about being a good partner who's going to be supportive. First thing they say, make sure he's got a stable job. Okay? Now, money is important. I'm not saying it isn't, but I think that influence tells people that their goals must be materialistic or their goals must be at the whim of someone else. That I will be successful if someone else thinks I'm successful, instead of looking from within. The good thing, I just want one follow-up, the good thing on it is in the book, we do something very early. It's called the value evaluation, okay? And this is an extremely powerful exercise because it will let you see if your values are aligned with your goals. And it's important to make sure that your values are aligned with your goals, because if they're not, you're going to end up throwing obstacles in front of yourself. You're going to end up self-sabotaging yourself if your values are not aligned with your goals. I'll give you a quick example of how this could happen. Let's say your goal is to make $1 million. Nothing wrong with it. But all your life, you have watched your parents fight about money. As a matter of fact, your parents may have been divorced because of money. And your mother, growing up as a single parent, had to take 2 jobs. And she was always late on the bills. And maybe you lost your phone for a while because you couldn't pay the bills. And of course, every time you go to church, you hear that money is the root of all evil. And you watch the news and you see all the Operation Wall Street and the 1%ers and all this. You're going to have a negative association about money. So when you start to make money, your brain is going to go, oh no, and it's going to look for ways to sabotage yourself. You know, think of your brain as a thermostat, and you may have an idea that $20,000, $30,000 is a decent amount of money because I'm going to work, I'm working 40 hours a week for somebody else. 30 to 50,000 is enough money because that's what I'd make in an office job. So that's okay. So your thermostat goes up to $50,000 and you're fine. Well, now, because you've read the book and you've done the exercises, you start making 75,000 or 100,000 or whatever the goal is. Let's say your goal is to date a supermodel, okay? But all your life you've been told that plain women are the way to go. Now please don't send me email. It's just an example, okay? Again, that thermostat in your brain is going to go, whoa, we overreached. And just like the thermostat in your house hits 80 degrees, your thermostat's set to 72. What's going to happen? The air conditioning is going to kick on and the temperature is going to drop. If your goal is to make $1 million, but you only think you're worthy of making 50,000, the minute you make 75,000, the air conditioner in your brain and your behaviors is going to turn on, and its room temperature in your head is going to drop, and you're going to look for ways to sabotage yourself subconsciously. So the value evaluation, make sure that your values are aligned with your goals.
That is brilliant. And so when we look at this book, Clarity is Power, it's really a workbook, isn't it? It's a book that we don't just read. I mean, I've read it, but I haven't done the exercises. I need to go back now and do the exercises.
Yes, and
so
for shame.
This is a workbook. I had a deadline.
It's okay.
But it's a workbook. It's really a process, isn't it?
Yes, it grew literally, as I said, it grew out of my workshops. And actually, in the beginning of the book, I have a section that's called Best Practices, which clues you into ways you could use the book to get the best effect out of it, to get the best results from it. And one of it is, hey, this was an exercise. This was a workshop. You're going to do the best by committing fully to playing fully out, approaching it with a childlike sense of wonder and awe, believing that you will be successful, which I think is very important, and doing all the exercises in the book. Because I read a statistic the other day. Out of all the personal interest programs, the workbooks and the seminars that people go to and the tapes and the CDs and the recordings, only 2% are ever opened and used.
I believe that.
Okay?
I believe that.
Think of the opportunity that you are missing out on when you buy not only my stuff, but let's say you go buy Tony Robbins stuff or you go buy someone else's stuff and you just read it and you don't do the exercises. Or worse, you put it on the bookshelf and it gathers dust because you just don't have the time.
So is it also true that when we go through the process of figuring out what our goals are or the process of evaluating our vowels?
Evaluating our vowels?
Values. Is A better than E?
Well, personally, I am an IOU man because I usually owe a lot of people.
That was awesome. No, seriously. Okay. So we go through that process of evaluating our values.
Yes.
And do we discover that a lot of times the goals that we thought were our goals are the goals that other people set for us or that we allowed other people to set for us, the goals of our community or our spouse or the goals that our parents had for us or that, society in a way has for us? How often is that an issue, do you think?
I believe that's an issue more often than you would think. I mean, they say, I read in my studies and my travels and everything, that the average person, their values, 90% of their values and their beliefs are set for them before they're 6 years old. That means before you hit elementary school, most of your value system and your belief system is set. It's set from your parents. It's set from your teachers. It's set from your friends. So before you ever get to the point where you can cognizantly meet and make those decisions for yourself, you already have a set of beliefs. So you're constantly, unknowingly and unwittingly living someone else's values. You're living someone else's story of you. Okay? Now, if we forget that, we all want to be good children, and we all want to be good mates, and we all want to be good parents. So we are constantly looking to other people. We spend all this time, in my opinion, trying to be the perfect boyfriend, the perfect husband, the perfect employee, the perfect lover, the perfect businessman, that we don't take the time to be the perfect self. So yeah, I truly believe that most of the times our goals are based on values that we did not select.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that, Gary, and this is a little bit of a leap, but I just got to mention it. I've been thinking about this very concept recently from a political perspective. You know, we've got this whole Uranus Pluto thing going on in the world where everyone is feeling like the right to express their individual beliefs and also to tell other people that they should have those same beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm recognizing it as an astrological thing, and I'm sort of kind of watching it and saying, okay, well, you know, there it is, red states, blue states, whatever. But I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that my belief system, if I were to sort of take a test of, do you believe that, this, do you believe that, you know, like we do on Facebook, tell me what my spirit monkey is or whatever. If I were to take a test about my beliefs, you would probably be able to know what area of the country I came from and in what generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so are those my beliefs? Are they really my beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been sitting down and writing down everything that I think I maybe believe and everything I've been taught to believe. And I've already done this process and already crossed out a huge bunch of stuff. I mean, I went from being a born-again Christian to being a tarot reader. So, you know, obviously I've crossed out a few things. But the point is that if we don't do this process of evaluating what we believe spiritually, politically, personally, about ourselves, about money, about life, about our skills and abilities, about God, the universe, and everything, and if we don't do this on a very regular basis, we are not authentically ourselves and we don't know who we are.
Exactly. And I'll give you an example that I use when I'm in my workshops and I'm dealing with identity, about how this can come back and it really can bite you. Because let's say you're a kid, 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid, you're growing up in Texas, you're growing up in Florida, your parents are church-going, good Christian people. So you have grown up all your life hearing that homosexuality is a sin, that same-sex marriage will be the downfall of the country. You hear your parents say it all the time. You hear your political leaders say it all the time. You go to church and you hear your preacher say it all the time. Well, now you hit 13 years old and puberty is starting. And you find yourself looking at the captain of the football team instead of the head of the cheerleaders. Okay? Now, this is who we are. This is how we are biologically made. And automatically, you're going to start feeling bad for yourself. Right. And you're not going to know why.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to associate that you've been living in an environment that believes homosexuality is bad and it's a sin, and you find out that you are gay, and that's going to bring a lot of self-hate upon you. And unless you take the time to look at where your values came from and if they really are authentically yours and empowering you to be the person you choose to be, you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to have some issues and you're not going to know where it's there. That's why it's extremely important, not only from a goal setting and a designing your life situation, but just from a living congruently and authentically and happily standpoint, to sit down and do what you did.
Sure.
Go through some version of what I call the value evaluation and make sure that you are who you choose to be.
Now, I can see, and one of the things I was going to ask you in the very beginning was when the topic is goal setting, why did you call it Clarity is Power? But this conversation really is revealing that to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that this really is about having clarity about who you are and what you believe. And now going back to this whole thing about fate and destiny and setting goals that are not the right goals.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another thing that comes up. And okay, you and I have theater in our backgrounds. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation or not, but I was a theater major in college.
Okay.
So, you know, we both have some similarity there. And if I could have at any time in my life waved a magic wand and created a particular thing, you know, what I wanted more than anything was to be on Broadway. That's what I wanted. I wanted to do musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bad actor. I am not a good musician. I do not have a solo singing voice. I can strum a guitar and sing some folk songs at the campfire and I'm okay. But I do not have a solo voice. I can't do those roles. I can't. And I'm not a great dancer either. I can spin around to the Grateful Dead, but that's about it. So my goal, and in fact, when I went to college, my goal was musical theater. Without a singing voice, without a good dancing thing, without a lot of dancing talent. And so clearly I switched my major after not too long.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to the person who wants this thing more than anything that they are clearly not cut out for?
Well, that's an interesting question because there's a large part of me, and I say it in the book, don't worry about whether it's realistic or not, okay? If it's something you truly want, go for it. Because if your whys are strong enough, your hows will manifest themselves. And it may not be in the way that you believe it to be.
Right.
You said that you want to be in musical theater. And from our conversation and the story you just told, I would say that you wanted to be Swoosie Kurtz, or you wanted to be Bernadette Peters, right?
Absolutely.
Or the Phantom of the Opera, the woman who was married to Michael Crawford, who was in the first Phantom. I can't remember her name. Beautiful woman, great actress, beautiful voice. It'll hit me later in this interview and I'll blurt it out. Okay? You're not cut out to be that, but that doesn't mean that if you followed that road with all your passion and you took the steps and you threw caution to the universe and you just said, I am going to, with clear intention and focus, intent, and an energy, pursue this passion. Well, you might have ended up a stage director. Mm-hmm. You might have ended up a costume person. You may have ended up a PR person or owning a theater or working in the theater district in some way that would have attached yourself to musical theater, just not in the way you originally presented itself.
Sure.
Okay.
Or even to act without the musical part, even just to do theater, which I did end up doing in community theater later on.
Yeah, I mean, I love acting. I love singing. I'm basically a poor singer in the shower. That's about it. My cats run away from me when I start singing. But I still pursue the acting. I still act in community theater. I still do a couple of weeks ago, I went up to Ticonderoga, New York to film a Star Trek fan film. You know?
Yes, in fact, we're going to be talking about that before we say bye today.
You want to bury the lead there. So you still can get these things. It all goes down to what your definition of success is. And these goals, they always don't have to be lofty goals. Right. You know, everybody who believes when you say goal setting and you got to set all these lofty goals, it's no. Your goal may just be to act regularly, whether it's in community theater, whether it's in dinner theater, whether it's making YouTube videos and just putting them on just for the love of doing it. It's about finding your authentic and congruent yourself, living that way, because that's going to send you the bliss that Joseph Campbell always talks about, being true to yourself.
Well, and isn't that what it is all the way through? Now, when we talk about your title, Clarity is Power, we also discover when we read the book that you have a method that is actually called clear.
Yes, wasn't that clever?
I
What
thought
I
it
did
was
there?
very clever. I like that very much. So can you just tell us a little bit about clear? What is
Yeah,
clear?
certainly. There are many schools of goal setting. The one that's the most popular now that many people who have gone through goal setting, either personally or professionally, probably heard of, is the SMART system. And the SMART system says it has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Okay? That's good, but that doesn't really tell you anything except how to form a sentence. Okay? It doesn't give you the process.
Right.
Okay? It says this is what your sentence must comprise of.
Right.
With the clear system, we actually start with the sentence, which is the C in clear, which stands for gaining clarity. And we go through exercises to show you on how to get clear on what you truly specifically want. Okay? But we don't stop there. We keep going and say, now that you have this dream statement, what do you have to do? Well, you have to get leverage. That's the L. Okay? You need to have leverage on your goals because that will be the thing that keeps you going when you hit your first obstacle.
So what does that mean? What is leverage on your goals? What is that?
It means knowing what you will gain and knowing what you will lose. It's the process of turning shoulds into musts because we can should all over ourselves, right? I should do this. I should lose weight. I should do yoga every day. I should go to that networking meeting. I should eat healthy. But until that should becomes a must, I must lose weight. I must do yoga. I must go to that networking meeting. We're not going to go anywhere. And I give the story in the book when I'm describing this about me trying to quit smoking. I started smoking when I was 18 years old when I first went to college.
Mm-hmm.
I smoked on and off for 25 years. Okay? I quit hundreds of times. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the oldest joke among smokers. Right? It wasn't until I was living in Florida, I was 43 years old or something, or 30-something years old. I don't remember how old I was, a couple of years ago. And I was done with my, divorce was just final, and I had just gotten laid off from work, and I didn't have anything, and my buddy said to me, hey, come on, let's go work out. Let's work out. You'll get in better shape. You'll be able to work out some frustrations. It'll be good for you. So I started working out. And one day while working out, I had a heart attack. Okay? I got shortness of breath, felt my shoulder, my chest being real tight, felt the pain in the upper shoulder area here, went to the emergency room, which was luckily 5 minutes away from the gym, okay, and discovered that I had a heart attack. Well, you know something? That gave me the reason to quit. That gave me the best leverage I ever could have had. Because sitting in the emergency room and thinking to myself, oh my God, I could have died. Think of everything I didn't do. What about all the people I'm never going to say again that I never got a chance to say I love you to? What about all the things that I wanted to do? The dream of stepping on a Broadway stage, the dream of walking on the bridge of the Enterprise, the dream of being a published author. One of the reasons this came out, bucket list time, okay?
Sure.
And do you know something? I didn't even have to try anymore. I went home, I threw down my cigarettes. That's it.
Done.
That's leverage right there.
Gotcha.
It is the ability to turn shoulds into musts. Now, once you got that, we go to the E, which is exploring your resources. Okay? One of the main reasons why I believe that people don't move forward on their goals is they don't feel they have the resources. They don't have the time. They don't have the money. They don't have the education. Nothing's furthest from the truth. So we sit there and through exercises, I will show you, hey, you know something? You actually have more on the ball. You're actually smarter than you give yourself credit for. And you have the resources of everybody around you. You have the resources of your friends, of your family. You have the resources of the stuff that you have. I give one example of somebody who's trying to go through goals, but they say they don't have their money. Well, hey, you know, open up your closet. I tell a story about a man whose wife threatened him because he had all this, I can say the word crap, right?
Oh,
He had all this
absolutely.
crap sitting around his house that, you know, everybody's got that one room, especially us guys, because we don't like to throw anything out from our glory days in high school, right? And he had all this computer crap and all this office crap sitting in there. And his wife gave him an ultimatum. Get rid of it or I'm burning it, okay? Or something to that effect. I don't think she said actually burning it. But he didn't want to end up in the doghouse. So he started sorting through the stuff. And he started selling the stuff off and using eBay and Craigslist and garage sales. And they made enough money from that to take a vacation to Hawaii. This comes from a man who didn't have any money. You have it. It's always there. And through the E, exploring your resources, we show you how to find it. That brings up the A, which is creating an action plan. Okay? Because another reason why people don't move on their goals is they don't know how.
Right.
Okay? I'm here to tell you, yes, you do. Okay? It doesn't matter if you don't know the beginning to the end, if you don't know the entire thing. I mean, think about it. We all love, I love reading, and I think everybody loves reading, whether it's a Harry Potter book or the latest Danielle Steele novel or an Anne Rice book, and she's coming out with a new Vampire Chronicle book. I can't wait.
I know, after she said she would, remember she did that whole Catholic thing where she wasn't going to write any more vampire stuff?
And you know why? Because while they were good books, Jesus doesn't sell. Lestat sells.
What? Now, see, there's a joke there. What's the difference between Jesus and Lestat?
About 300,000 copies.
You know, I think she's gotten really, you know, it's back to the gay thing. She's gotten really tired of the negativity of the church toward non-heterosexual people. I think that's another issue for her because her son's gay.
So going back to the A for a moment, we took a deviation to Anne Rice, and you know, but it's the same thing. You have to get an action plan, and just like if you would still read a book even though you didn't know how it ended, right?
Huh?
Most people don't start their action plans because they don't know all the steps of the plan.
Right. I got it.
So
yes.
Would you read a book if you didn't know how it ended? No. That's why we read the book.
Right.
For the story. Right? So it's the same thing with an action. So you don't know every step. Do you know the first couple of steps? Well, great. Take them. Start them. And I show you how to do that. If it seems like it's a too big and daunting task, well, I show you how to chunk it down into smaller pieces that are more manageable. Right? Now, after you do all that, we come to R, which is the review step. Because if you're not checking up on yourself, like I always say, you may want to look at a sunset, but if you're running east, I wish you a lot of luck. Right? You need to review what you're doing. If your goal is to lose 100 pounds, you may be eating right, you may be exercising every day, but if you're not stepping on that scale, you have no idea how close you are. Right. So in the R step, the review step, I show you how to monitor your progress. And more importantly, I show you a couple of tips and techniques on how not to be judgmental. Because that is one of the biggest reasons. Because we go, oh, I'm going to do this, and the first thing we do fails. And we go, well, that's it, not doing it anymore. So a large part of goal setting, especially in the R step, is to be non-judgmental. So when you put them all together, clarity, leverage, exploring your resources, creating an action plan, and reviewing your steps, that gets you clear on your goal. And that is my entire process. There is one other thing about that sets me, the clear system, apart from the smart system. It's the one thing I really have an issue with the smart system, and that's the middle two in a smart. The smart system says that your goals must be attainable, and they must be
realistic.
Realistic. Thank you. Okay. Well, hey, I could set a goal to walk out the door, and do you know something? I just did. I made it. No. What good is to have a goal that's attainable and realistic? What the smart system tells you to be is average. We're not put on this world to be average. We're put here to be divine and exemplary. Don't listen to your fear. I was watching an interview with Oprah yesterday. She was interviewing, and I'm going to get the name wrong, Paulo Coelho, who is the author of The Alchemist, one of my favorite books.
Right.
And what he said, and he said something that the purpose of life is to dare.
Right.
And to me, that encapsulates everything. Don't be fearful. Don't make your goals attainable. What's the fun in that? Don't make it realistic. Dream. Have passion. And that's what Clarity is Power in my system allows you to do. It's one of the requirements I put forth at the beginning of the book. Play full out. Dream big.
Well, and I like that, and I appreciate it. I think especially because in my work, I often, and I'm sure you do too, I often speak with people who, like if we talk about attainable and realistic, what I think is attainable and realistic for them may be very different from what they see for themselves because they've limited themselves.
Absolutely.
They tell these limiting kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, I may do a reading for them and I see that, this, say, 60-year-old woman who is a widow would like a new relationship. But in her mind, that's not a realistic or attainable goal because she's too old.
Yep.
But lo and behold, in the cards, I see a new relationship coming for her, but I'm concerned that she might sabotage that because in her mind, these goals are not attainable and realistic. So I think if you take attainable and realistic off the table, you've just opened up, especially for people who tend to be self-limiting.
Yep.
You've just opened up a huge amount of possibility that wasn't there before. So I think that's brilliant.
Yep.
Now, there was another thing I saw in the book that I just loved. And I don't even remember where it was, but it stuck with me. And it was, and I even forget how you put it, but I'll tell you what I got from it. Okay. And we'll see if I even got it right.
Okay.
The idea that I don't know how is not a reasonable excuse.
Absolutely.
That if obviously, if you're a surgeon, you better know how to use a scalpel. That's not what we're talking about.
Yes.
But the idea that, I see this all the time. I do a huge amount of business counseling in my tarot readings. I read for a lot of people in business or a lot of people who want to be in business. And because I'm successful in business and I'm a good tarot reader, and in fact, this business I'm successful in, it makes me a good reader for these sorts of people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I find with the people who have not yet attained success is I'll do the reading and I'll say, oh, well, it's very clear. You need to market in this way, or you need to do this, you need to do that. Simple business things. And they'll say, well, I don't know how to do that. And my answer is always, well, do you know how to Google? Mm-hmm. If you know how to Google, you know how to do it because it's all there. There's a million YouTube videos right now to tell you how to do whatever it is you want to do.
We live in an incredible time that we have Google, we have YouTube, we have the internet, which puts the resources and the information and knowledge that go beyond what was in the Library of Alexandria. Right. And just think about how further we would be along if we didn't lose that library, thank you to the Dark Ages. Right. In our hands at seconds. And it's not only the information. If 10 years ago I wanted to become a self-published author,
right?
You know how many hoops I'd have to jump through? Do you know how much money I would have to put out?
And instead of promoting a book that people are reading, you have great reviews on Amazon, by the way. The book's only been out for 5 minutes, and you've got a bunch of great reviews.
Thank you.
You know, none of that would have happened. You could have self-published a book. We would have called it Vanity Press.
Yeah.
And you would have a box of these chat books
Mm-hmm.
in your basement.
Yeah, and now I wrote the book. That was the creative birthing of it. And then I went to Amazon, and Amazon has a wonderful program for authors that they could put it up as an ebook, free, and Amazon will sell it and take a percentage of it. Hey, they got to make money.
Right.
Okay?
Fine.
But think of how many people Amazon reaches. Think of all the resources going back to what we were saying before. Okay? I don't know how. Not an excuse. You know, I heard an interview with Richard Branson. You know, guy, Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Records and Virgin everything. Wonderful man. One of my idols and my mentors. And his advice is, if you don't know how to do anything, if someone offers you a job where you can't do it, take it anyway and learn. Okay? When I was in my mid-20s, I was asked to be the producer for one of the largest a cappella festivals on the East Coast of America, on the East Coast of North America. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I loved the music. I was friends with a lot of the groups that were popular at the time, but putting on a whole music festival, I had no clue. I was stupid. I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But you know something? I did that for 5 years. I grew that event from when I took over, it had 100 people, to when I stopped doing it, it had over 3,000. I'm still the only person to make a profit on it because I learned by doing. Right. When you jump out of the plane, if you don't have a parachute, you learn real quickly how to sew. Okay? And it's not right in every situation, such as the surgeon that you gave. You don't want a heart surgeon looking at a book while he's got an open chest.
Right.
But for a lot of situations, the best way to learn how is to immerse yourself in it. And the only thing that's stopping you, in my opinion, is your ego, is the judgment, is the word failure.
You know, and what has just become incredibly clear to me right this minute is how fear, judgment, and ego are sort of this, sort of these twisted evil triplets that work. Like when you said that within us, there is always an entity within us that wants us to be our divine best. I think there's also, unfortunately, an entity within us that wants us to fail. And that entity, I think, is fed by fear and judgment and ego. No?
I don't think it wants us to fail, but I think it's that self-preservation part of us that goes back to caveman days, that fight or flight resource that we have now overdeveloped as fear. Sure. Fear was originally a process that when we saw the saber-toothed tiger coming at us, we ran like hell.
Fear was appropriate. Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, doing the steps you need to write the book, doing the steps you need to market your business properly. Okay, let's say you write up a business plan, you have a product launch, and it falls miserably, falls on its butt. Okay? No one died. Hopefully, unless your product is like a skydiving, okay? But usually, no one dies. There's nothing wrong with that. So instead of looking at it as fear, look at it as an opportunity. You just learned something that didn't work. Hello, there goes Noah.
The cat is so photobombing you.
Yep.
Well, that's such an important thing, and we see it. You and I are on a lot of the same groups in Facebook, and I see it especially with the groups of people who are building a business, say, especially tarot business, because I'm in a lot of tarot groups. I think you are too.
Yeah, I think, yep.
And people will say, well, okay, I got this opportunity to go do this particular event. I'm starting my tarot business. It's a party, it's a fair, it's a festival, and they have a lousy time. So they come back and they say, okay, well, we're not doing that again. And it's over. Their business is done. And, every successful person has at least 5 of those stories.
Oh, yeah.
The times that we tried something that just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Times that we, as you say, fall miserably on your face. We all have a story like that.
Oh, yeah.
And we came home, had a glass of wine or whatever, and said, oh, that was a bad day. What did I learn from that?
Exactly.
Next time I'll do it different. And I think right there, that may be a difference between failure and success is, I guess I'm not going to do that, and next time I'll do it differently.
Exactly. I tell everybody, and it's also in the book, eliminate the word failure. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
All you really have when you failed is another way of saying you got an undesirable or an unexpected result.
Right.
You did something where you thought something was going to happen and something else happened. Well, try again. I liken it this way. Everybody has their kid. You have children.
Yes.
Right? And your children, when they start to learn to walk, will stumble and bumble, and they'll fall down and they'll skin their knee, and they'll start to cry. Are you going to pick your child up, put him in the crib, and goes, my child will never do that again? No. You're going to sit there. You're going to sit there, and you're going to let your kids stumble and bumble and fumble around and fall and fail, and eventually they're going to get up and walk out the door because you know something? We all do. Failure is not a personal indictment. It's part of the process.
That's so true. That's
okay.
So true. And it's not a bad thing or something to fear. So that's perfect stuff. So I promised everyone in my newsletter, I promised everyone that we would talk a little sci-fi. Another thing, you and I have a bunch of stuff in common. And another thing we have in common is sci-fi. So I just wanted to hear very quickly about the Star Trek fan piece you just shot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep. First of all, the trailer is coming out. We're editing it now. It's in post.
Okay.
So that's important. It's in post. Working on it. It absolutely looks fantastic. I saw it. And my buddy, a guy by the name of Jim Bray, who was one of my closest friends, had this idea that he wanted to do where Star Trek was Gene Roddenberry's wagon train to the stars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He came up with an idea for a show that he's calling Anthology, which he calls the short bus to the Twilight Zone.
Okay.
It is set in the TOS universe, the time of Kirk and Spock and everything.
Okay.
And it tells the story not of the Enterprise, but of many different ships in that time. And every story has like a Twilight Zone element or Twilight Zone edge to it or twist to it.
Nice.
So they're very suspenseful and thriller kind of episodes. The one that we were shooting, which is the pilot, and it's going to be a recurring one throughout the series, talks about the Starship Challenger.
Okay.
And her crew. And I played Dr. Martin. And it is a lot of fun. If you are a fan of Star Trek, I think you'll love it. We are using the sets. The sets have been donated to us by James Cawley and Retro Film Studios.
Oh, my God.
Puts on a show called Star Trek Phase 2 New Voyages, which, if you're a Star Trek fan, you have got to see.
I'm not familiar with this. This is
this man is a Star Trek fanatic. He actually has recreated in his studio the exact Desilu studio for Star Trek from 1961.
Oh my gosh, that's
okay. So the bridge is the bridge. The transporter room is the transporter room. And the first time I stepped onto it, I will admit I geeked out. I tried to be calm and cool, but the minute I set foot on the bridge, I was like, ah! It is so cool down to the last detail, and we are very, very lucky that Mr. Cawley is extremely generous in letting us use his sets for it to do our piece, which really gives it that authenticity and makes you feel like you're in 1962. Same thing with the costumes.
Wow.
It's going to be a lot of fun. The trailer comes out hopefully by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
We're going to be filming more of it in 2015 and hope to have the episode out by the summer of 2015. Already got a Facebook group on it, so even though this is not a show about Star Trek Challenger.
Well, it can be.
you can check it out, Starship Anthology on Facebook. go check it out. I think we've got the one of the teasers out there for it right now. Really going to be a lot of fun, and I love doing it. Just walking around the Starship Enterprise was like a bucket list check.
Well, and back to goal setting. You know, when we talk about goals, goals can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Career to creative to monetary to interpersonal to personal growth to what is that? It's a fan goal, it's a creative goal, it's a
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of goal we would call that, but it's certainly a goal.
It was a goal of mine. I mean, it was something like, hey, as a kid, you watch it and you go, like, wow, I would love to play Star Trek. I would love to be on the Starship Enterprise. And, there's a metaphysical process to goal setting sometimes that we don't know about, which I touch a little bit on in the book, but since it's a book of processes and not theory, I don't go too deep.
Mm-hmm.
But just thinking about having the intent, and the kid who was 12 years old watching Star Trek, and then the young adult who was 23 years old watching TNG and DS9 and watching all the movies, and putting the thought in my head, someday I'm going to be on the Starship Enterprise. And it was just that thought. And, my belief is that the universe is a giant wish fulfillment machine. We tell it what we want through our thoughts, and the universe goes, whatever we think, oh, okay, it wants this. Boom, and it gives it to us.
That is a whole other discussion you and I have to have, because I don't quite agree, so that's going to be a fun discussion for another time.
Okay.
But speaking of this very topic, this wish fulfillment and being the guy watching Star Trek and then ending up on the bridge, it brings us to a great story that's happened in Geek Land recently that I promised everyone I would get your reaction to. That is Peter Capaldi.
Oh, that. Okay. I was going down the wrong. I was still on Star Trek, and the rumors that Shatner will be on that.
We're out of Star Trek now, and we're
Doctor Who.
To Doctor Who.
Okay.
Peter Capaldi, a person who grew up loving Doctor Who. He wrote in, and he was a fan. He received, as a fan tribute, he received some scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Very early Doctor Who. He went into acting, became a very well-known actor, and now at an age where he thought he was too old, he is now the next Doctor. He is now Doctor Who. So he has done that in a mighty big way.
Oh, yes.
But what do you think?
I've seen the first 3 episodes. I mean, I watch it religiously. Every Saturday it just comes on. And I'm sitting there, BBC America, it's right on. I am a Whovian going back to John Pertwee. That was my first Doctor, the end of John Pertwee, the beginning of Tom Baker. And I am really excited about Peter Capaldi. I love the character he's giving it. I love that little aloofness that he has, and that almost, it's not really William Hartnell curmudgeonness, but it's enough of a disdain for the human, but the need to have the human there. He's doing wonderfully for it, and he's a very different Doctor. If you remember the second episode where they went into the Dalek.
Right.
And he sits there and they're in the Dalek, and one of the soldiers is being surrounded by the Dalek antibodies. And he reaches in, he pulls out a gumball or whatever it is, and he hands it to the guy, and he goes, "Take this." And the guy takes it and looks at him and goes, "Trust me." Now, of course, through years and years and years and years and years of watching the Doctor, you're expecting this gumball is going to make the Dalek's head explode or something. You're expecting a happy ending. And he takes it, and the antibodies close in on the guy, incinerate him, and Clara looks at him and goes, "You could have saved him." And he looks at Clara and goes, "He was already dead. I'm saving us." And that said, wow, we're dealing with a much different Doctor here. Someone who is a little bit more realistic, a little bit more practical, doesn't have the zest for humanity. It's going to be, I love his characterization. And I also love the fact that he kept his Scottish accent. He didn't try to put another accent on like David Tennant did. Right? He's just saying, this is who I am, and I'm having a blast in watching him. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go.
Sure.
Because I don't know if you know this, but this is not Peter Capaldi's first turn in Doctor Who.
I do know he played a different character.
Yes, early in the Matt Smith, early in the David Tennant tenure.
Yes.
During an episode called Fires of Pompeii.
Right.
He played the Roman senator.
Right.
That was the same episode where Karen Gillan, who was Amy Pond, played the soothsayer.
Right.
So there is a concept rolling around in Stephen Moffat's head that the Doctor doesn't randomly choose his physical appearances, that they're going to be exploring through the entire series eventually,
right,
which is going to be tied back to Capaldi's earlier appearance as the Roman senator.
Oh, isn't that fun? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I hadn't put that together. That's very cool. And we know the Doctor doesn't choose his appearance because he's always surprised by it when he regenerates.
Yeah, well, this is going to explore a little bit, and I really don't know where they're going to take it. I'm more interested in this whole story arc of Heaven. And the woman who claims to be the Doctor is her boyfriend, and who she is.
Very interesting.
I have heard theories that it's actually a reincarnation or a regeneration of River Song, which would be interesting because she's in the library. Okay?
Right.
But it does have a very VR feel as the library did.
Right.
I've heard rumors that it may be the Ronnie, if you remember from Classic Who. That it may be somebody totally else. I've also heard that Danny Pink, who is Clara's love interest, is actually going to be revealed as the Master.
Oh my gosh. No spoilers, sweetie.
Yeah, I know. Spoilers. So, I mean, we could talk about Doctor Who forever. I love it. I'm a geek, sci-fi geek. I can talk about it forever. But to answer your question as succinctly as I can, and as you're finding out, I tend to drone on a lot. I think Peter Capaldi is doing a bang-up job. And where I was a little unsure with Matt Smith at the beginning, I dove in and grabbed onto Peter Capaldi from moment one. I think he's doing great.
Not everyone is loving him. I love him. Not everyone is loving him. I love him, but I wonder if our age is significant here because we remember older doctors. I mean, the whole new generation of Whovians, they're really all about Tennant and Smith. Even Eccleston, who I loved.
I loved Christopher Eccleston.
I know, I loved him. I did. But so I wonder if the younger, this is something we share with our kids. We love Who, our kids love Who. But I don't know if our kids are going to like this Doctor as much as we do.
It may be because it's the youngerness of it. And I also discovered while I'm watching this, and I enjoy this, the way the stories are being told now are different. Especially in the later Matt Smith time, it was very quick. It was really quick. It was a lot of cuts. It was a lot of action. It was a lot of bang, 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 bang. And with Peter Capaldi, they're getting back to a longer story before making the cuts and the longer scenes. And for me, that makes a better, more engaging story. But for today's YouTube generation, they prefer the cut.
Sure.
So that could be another reason why they're not crazy about Peter Capaldi. It's not that they're not crazy about him, but the way the show is being designed with the longer stories and the longer scenes and the longer cuts may not be familiar to them as a storytelling device.
Sure. Well, that is pretty much our time today. So hold up the book. Let's do the final plug for the book.
One last time.
Clarity is Power by Gary Karp. It's available on Amazon. It will not break your wallet. nor will it take any more time than you let it. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. The exercises are simple and fun. I haven't done them yet, but you know what? I'm inspired to do them, and it takes a lot.
I also want to let people know, not only is it available for Amazon, for Kindle, and in paperback through Amazon, but I'm an Apple head, so I also made it available for iOS devices. You can go to the iBookstore and download it for your iPad or your iPhone.
Well done.
And I'm going into the studio actually on Monday to record an audiobook version as well.
Wow, and luckily you have good pipes and a theater training, so you can do that part of it too. That's awesome. So how can people get in touch with you? If people want private sessions with you, if people want to talk to you, work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
If people want to get in touch with me, they're curious, they can go visit my website. That's www.garykarp.info, GaryKarp.info. On that page, you'll find out a little bit about me. You'll get your latest press releases and news about me. You can sign up for my newsletter, read my blogs, and also find out what my standard canned services are. And, of course, if you want anything that you don't see there, drop me an email, and I'll be more than happy to work with you to develop a program for you specifically or your company to train your employees specifically. You can follow me at Twitter at Gary Karp Coach, and Facebook.
Perfect. Facebook's the way. That's how I know you. Gary Karp, I want to thank you so much for writing a great book, Clarity is Power. And I want to thank you for being a guest on Christiana's Psychic Cafe. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Christiana. Have a great day, folks.